Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 93. Sol Standard Date. 4th of the 5th, 3267. Sal's ears perked up at the sound of oohs and ahs coming from the Terran ship.
"I am terribly sorry, my lady, but I must join the others now. I do hope to see you at a later date," he said, as he took a flourishing bow.
Sal turned and ran to the shuttle, only to see Malenf step out of the shuttle looking like he hadn't been a decrepit old man seconds before. Sal observed that the old Magura was absolutely ripped, and had grown a full 7 inches, even if he was still blind. Sal felt that if he angered the old man, he might get ripped in half now.
"This is the pinnacle? This is what it means to become gods? I have the ability to just casually grant immortality on a whim? Truly, I could not imagine a being as anything other than godly when they so casually tossed the laws of the universe to the roadside," he thought, as he dropped to his knees.
Resler slithered up to Sal and nudged his shoulder.
"I did not believe Tama when he came back and started talking about all that nonsense, yet here we are. We've just witnessed history. These Terrans are amazing to have even figured this out, let alone the fact that they are willing to just share this with us. I'm in awe of the Terrans," she said,
as she stared up at the jubilant Catherine. Sal just nodded and stared as Madame Char sauntered up the ramp to the shuttle. The door reformed after Madame Char passed the line, and moments later she walked back out. Madame Char started crying tears of joy as she pulled out her mirror. Catherine waved at the next one in line, and this cycle repeated itself through Groklek, Grek, Atrenta, Resler, Kane, Ven, and then Sal himself before moving on to the non-council folk that had happened to be in the right place at the right time. Catherine led on Vrilix's crew, then Mizen's, and finally ended with Alania from Tama's crew. At the end of all this, she was scratching her head. There were definitely less floofs now than there were yesterday. They were missing the adorable Hover Cthulhu, hyena, meerkat, dolphin, raccoon, and the doggy. Catherine looked from side to side for a few moments before giving up and yelling for the one who could help her out. "Jeff!" Jeff appeared behind Catherine and took a bow, scaring the life out of the gathered floofs, granting them a different kind of eternity.
"You called? What is it that you need, Catherine?" he asked in an amused tone.
Catherine rolled her eyes. "Where did the other floofies go? They are missing their appointment with Dr. Dulassi," she said, while making a pouty face. Jeff sighed and then disappeared. Catherine smiled as she sat down and waited for Jeff's return. The rest of those that were gathered were murmuring between themselves. Atrenta and Malenf were debating on what kind of god this Jeff was. Atrenta swiped his regal feathers at the rippling chest of the Maguran.
"No, he is obviously a god of stealth and speed, who is tasked with protecting the Holy Daughter."
Malenf ground his teeth.
"No, you idiotic avian, he's a god of strength, a shield for the goddess. The speed and stealth are just so that he does not bother her with his presence."
Resler slithered between the two and flicked her tail, creating a deafening crack. "You two have essentially described the same thing, just in different ways. Quit screaming at one another over something so trivial. What does he matter anyways? He has been a minor god," she said, with a wink as she slithered away. Malenf and Atrenta gripped each other's shoulders and smiled at one another as Malenf said, "She's right, friend. We are unified in our love for the Emperor. We should not let a minor god get between our people." Atrenta patted Malenf's shoulder. "Couldn't have said it better myself. So what are we naming the new religion in Basilis's name? Our people will be worshipping the same entity for the same reasons. It stands to reason that we should combine our peoples. The Emperor would want that." Malenf thought on it for a moment. "We shall call it Followers of the Darkened Light. We will worship he who has brought low gods and rent entire planes of existence. He who protects all of those worthy of protection equally, and without want for anything in return. He who is the dark light of hope for all," he said, as he smiled warmly at the Iskari leader. Atrenta let a single tear fall from his eye as he nodded his head. "I will go forth and let my people know within the day. Today will become a galactic holiday, brother," he said, as he turned back towards Catherine. Jeff appeared behind Catherine again. This time he was holding a couple of incredibly surprised creatures. In one arm he held the raccoon, the Deem. In the other he was holding Azariah. "The others are coming of their own volition. These two are being stubborn," he said, as he set the two council members down. Nadim was fuming and shaking his hands at the Terran soldier while yelling incoherently. Azariah was just looking around in the daze. Catherine reached down and started petting the two council members as she tried to calm them. Nadim paid her no attention, as he was still screaming at Jeff. Azariah just looked at Catherine and asked, "What just happened? I was in my room working and then the world was a blur for a moment before I ended up here. kind of power was that?
Catherine smiled at the little doggy.
Jeff has some pretty dangerous technology hooked up into his brain that allows him to slip between the waves of time and space, apparently. Or at least it's something to that effect. Jeff isn't really too keen on sharing, so this is just my own observation.
Azariah let her jaw drop.
You have the kind of technology necessary to do just about anything, don't you? She said, as Catherine hit a button on ship, cycling the med scanner once more.
Nadim and Azariah began to grow young once more, as a synthesized voice boomed at them. Once the process was over, Nadim dropped to his knees and began shaking. They have stolen my credibility. I can't tell my people that they are liars while I am benefiting from their technology. They will see me as a fraud. This is not checkmate, he said, as he ran through the fresh opening in the craft.